Good morning, school, and welcome to the first reflection section of the academic year. Let me start by asking a question. What invention has had the greatest impact on human life? I'll just give you just a little moment to think about that. I think an obvious answer is, of course, the wheel. The wheel has been around for a very long time. It's credited as being invented in the Mesopotamian civilizations. However, if we take that as read, I think there are some other candidates. Electricity, the motor car, sliced bread, the aeroplane, the printing press, the telephone, the internet, penicillin, television, all of which have undoubtedly massively impacted upon our lives. But I want to talk to you today about another invention which has had a huge impact on the way in which we live. Now, this invention was created by an engineer called Willis Carrier in New York in 1901. Carrier had been employed by a New York publishing company to solve a bit of a problem. And their problem was this, that different temperature and humidity in their factory meant it was difficult for them to print books in colour. Therefore, they tasked Carrier with creating a machine that would allow them to control temperature and humidity in their factory. Although Carrier never actually used the name, we would know this machine as air conditioning, and I don't think it's any exaggeration to say that air conditioning has changed not only where we live, but how we live. For almost all of human history, one of our biggest challenges was to ensure that the buildings and the places in which we lived were suited to the climate. Whether it was houses or castles, we had to have different buildings to deal with extremes of temperature and weather. For thousands of years, people harvested ice from mountains or glaciers and used it to cool their houses, water and food. At one point this was an international industry. Our buildings were different because of different temperatures. If you look on the right, you'll see a traditional thatched Scottish crofter's cottage, a thick walls, low ceiling, big thatch roof to preserve heat, whereas on the left we have an Indian jalis, an intricately carved building with perforated windows which compressed air, which helped cool them down. However, air conditioning changed all this. Air conditioning suddenly meant that we could build wherever we liked. Take Dubai. It is literally in a desert. Without air conditioning, these metal and glass skyscrapers would simply be enormous greenhouses. It is air conditioning that has allowed these mega cities in these parts of the world to develop. There is a remarkable correlation between the numbers of air conditioning units and the rise of megacities such as Shanghai and Shenzhen in China, as seen in these pictures here. The growth of our cities has been made possible by skyscrapers and the building materials behind that, but air conditioning has meant that these buildings can be habitable. But of course, what this has meant is this has changed not only where we can build cities, but what our cities look like. Traditional architecture, which first of all arose from necessity, was no longer an issue. We could build the same sort of building everywhere, and that's what we've done. These skyscrapers from around the world all look virtually identical. What that does mean, however, is we seem to have lost, in some respects, some of our traditional architecture, and the forces of globalization see the same concrete tower blocks being built in every region and city on Earth. And so air conditioning has had a profound impact on where we live and how we live. But its impact isn't just architectural. Take this picture here. This is a server room which is kept cool by air conditioning. Our computers, our mobile phones, the internet that we use, many of us day in, day out, is also brought about through the marvels of air conditioning. Now, I'm not sure if air conditioning really is the greatest invention of human history, but it certainly has had a profound impact. And I would suggest it's a vast improvement on the alternative, which was doing the rounds at the time. This is a 1922 invention called the baby cage, which did exactly what the name says. You simply stick your baby out the window in a thin wire mesh metal cage and hope that everything's okay. Okay, school, thank you so much.